Welcome to Season 2 of In the Vine Dating Podcast with host Melissa Chavez, joined by Yesenia, Denise, and Shekinah. This season, we'll be discussing different topics such as premarital intercourse, soul ties, and the importance of servanthood. And of course, discussing our upcoming dating mixers and events. For more information, you can visit our website at www.inthevinedating.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to show your support and like, share, and subscribe.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to In the Vine Dating Podcast. It's your host, Melissa Chavez, and my voice is still struggling out here. I don't even know why I'm doing it. I really should have said it. It's been a whole week. It feels like it's the same day. Yeah, we're lying. We're filming on the same day, so that's why my voice is still like this. Anyway, welcome. It's your host. Did I say my name already?
Yes, you did.
Okay, cool. Here with me I have
Yessie, Shekinah,
Denise.
And we are very honored and looking forward to this episode. We're looking forward to this episode where we talk about our girl, Ashley Garcia. But before that, we were trying to figure out how we were going to start the episode, right? Because I can't ask them how their week was because it's in the same day. So then we started talking about our worst dates.
Some of us. And,
you know, in Spanish, there's a saying. It goes, mejor me río antes de llorar, en vez de llorar. And so, you know, we had many laughs.
I think you're going to say the one mejor sola que mal acompañada.
Oh, eso también, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But we were remembering a date that all my friends knew or were a part of in one way or another. I remember there was this guy. And so they asked me to share it. So I'm going to share it with you guys, the elements of my life. So there was this one time in band camp. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
There was this one time where I was interested in this dude, right? And, you know, we weren't sure what the heck was going on. So then finally, it's a little bit specific. I don't know. But anyway, we ended up being able to go to an event that I really had been wanting to go to. So he invited me to go. And I was like, yeah, for sure. So, you know, we have these rules set in place, right? So I hit up my friend and I was like, hey, can you come with me? I don't want to go by myself.
She's a trooper. What a friend.
She drove all the way from Palmdale from Palmdale all the way to Long Beach to go with me. And I was working in the Valley during this time, so we just met over there. And so as I'm getting there, homeboy is like, hey, when you get there, can you tell me if they're charging? And that should have been red flag number one, okay?
But you told him.
And I told him, yeah. So anyway, so he asked me, and first of all, I've been working all day. You haven't been working. Why aren't you there already, right? And so, again, red flag. And
why wasn't he working?
Because he was a starving artist.
Oh.
Yeah.
That should have been another red flag.
Another red flag. Yeah.
Okay.
The heart wants what it wants. So anyway. I'm back in that moment. So we get there, right? And it turns out that I found out that homeboy had driven there with another girl. And I was like, what in the world? And I meet the girl. The girl's like...
Not intimidating.
We ended up being best friends at the end of the day. But she was like, the best way that I can picture is like Tinkerbell. Like homegirl was just everywhere, throwing her little sprinkle everywhere. Anyway, so then... So then we go eat. And we had friends, right? So then everybody's like, where do we want to go eat? Blah, 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 blah. And he was like, I don't know. This bill's going to break the bank. Like, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm already like, what in the world? Like, first of all, that means you can't afford my meal. You can't even afford your meal. And so then we go eat. And I'm just like, what am I doing here, you know? And so then we eat. Yeah, didn't pay for my bill. Didn't pay for my friend's bill, who was our chaperone, right? And so then I was like, all right, taking off. I told my friend, I'm so sorry for making you drive out here. You know, it was a whole thing. Actually, I should take her out for dinner now that I think about it. Anyway, so then we're on our way back. And he calls me and he was like, hey, do you want to follow each other? And I was like, no. I was like, I'm fine. if anybody knows me and my driving, like I ain't trying to slow down, right? So then he's like, no, like let's drive together, blah blah blah. And so then he's like, I just need to stop at a gas station. And I was like, okay. Okay. And long story short, I end up spotting the boy, $20. And but I was redeemed. The Lord, I got it. So our roomies, my roomies and I, we got redeemed for that, and we got a really good payback. But I remember I called Yessie, and I was like dying on the phone. I was like laughing my freaking head off, and I was like, bro, like I can't believe this just happened.
No, you called me while you were waiting, while he was still putting gas. And you were saying like, oh my gosh, the friend though, she's a little loony. Like you were telling me that that I don't know where you're like, oh wait, she's coming to my window, and then she's like, hey girl, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Isn't this fun?
She gave me her Forever 21 jacket.
Yeah, and she's like, yeah, and then she like puts the window back up, and she goes, okay, I gotta go. Yeah. But the whole time, she was laughing. She actually missed an exit because she was so like, I think you missed it twice. Yeah, she went back and she missed it. She's like, I missed it again because she was just so into telling the story that.
It was so funny.
She wasn't even being mindful, It
was so fun. Denise and I told you that story.
You did. My husband and I had a day. Yeah. When you told him about the gas, my husband was, I hadn't seen my husband's shocked face like that in such a long time. He was like, he what? Yeah. And then we had brought up like a whole coupon conversation, remember?
Yes. We were in and out when we had that conversation. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you guys believe that, guys? Or is it okay if a guy busts out a coupon like on a first date?
Your husband asked me this before.
I know he has this thing with asking people this question.
It's a legit question. I would be very turned off on that first date. For sure.
Be honest, I would be turned off. It's funny. I have an uncle who he's so passionate about that, and he's wealthy. So he loves to throw around his money. He's like, I don't care how poor you are. You go into debt for that woman. Like you take her out. He's like, if you go on a first date with a guy and he goes, you want coffee? Like. Which I'm fine with that, by the way. I'm fine with that, by the way. But it's just funny hearing that from another man's perspective, like an older man's perspective. He looks down at younger men and he's like, your first date was coffee? That is so cheap. That right there is a huge red flag. And he's just like, you need to go, you need to take her out. He's like, I don't care if you have to go into the debt. You take her out to like a 5-star restaurant and you treat her like a queen. And I was just like, yes.
But I'll take my coffee.
Yeah, I was like, but I'm also cool with coffee. But yes.
But thank you for sharing that story when you did. It was funny. It was really funny. It wasn't funny
at your expense.
What? I think it was just really like, wow.
Yeah,
it happened.
It was it was so shocking that it was funny. But it's really the gift that keeps on giving. And thereafter, it didn't get better. We didn't go on another date even that wasn't a date. That was me taking him out.
No, you were like paying for him and the other girl. Yeah. It's so weird.
Yeah, it was very weird. I guess technically, when it comes to the gas. Yeah, it was all very strange.
You paid him.
He to go on a date with a girl.
Date.
I don't like this story anymore. We're scratching it. No. Oh my God.
This is the real. We have to post this up.
Yes.
Wow.
And this is why I've been single for 10 years, because it's hard out here,
Single by choice, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm just here crying now. The Lord redeems. My Redeemer lives. Yeah, I'm not even going to have you share that other story. Okay, anyway, moving on. So with that being said, it's very hard out here. Anyway, so with that being said, what did you guys think of Ashley's interview? I'll start with Shekinah because you're looking at me.
No, Ashley's interview is actually great. I was looking forward to it because I love her testimony. Ashley's, I mean, as you mentioned in the interview, we were roommates for 2 years, right? It's about 2 years. And so, I was really excited for her to share her testimony because she's so quiet and she's just reserved. But man, when you get to know her, you're like, whoa, like you're just a go-getter. She just, if she wants it, she gets it. And just that level of faith that she has, I remember always passing by her. She's like, oh, I got this. And and it's not without, she says it as if it was easy. but there was so much hard work that was behind it. But she says it and she presents it in an effortless way.
Yeah.
So I would always joke around like, can you just, that anointing, can you just
rub it on over here?
yeah, like over
You
here.
always do those little dances. I love it.
So I love that she got to share it, and I'm excited that that my roomie got some attention because she definitely deserved it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Wait, you're not Ashley. You're Yessie.
Ashley, come here. Come here.
Come hither.
I thought it was great. Honestly, listening to it, I listened to it again with my husband, and we were both like, dang, we forget she's so young. Yeah, because everything that she's gone through, she was saying her age at those times, and I remember those days. You know, and so just to know that she went from this season to this season to this season, like, I know that we were out, at least I was an outsider towards it, and she was just so young. It just blows my mind because she carries herself very in a very mature way, and very well, and very classy. So I admire that about her.
I agree 100% again.
Yeah, I agree. We all agree.
We all agree.
Ditto. We all agree.
Don't you love this podcast? We all agree.
Ditto.
I think Ashley's awesome. She's young, and me too. When she said she was 17,
17.
I was like, what?
I tripped out.
Yeah, and it's because she, like Yessie said, she carries herself in a very sophisticated and mature way. So, but I was glad that she was able to share her testimony. Also, I think it was very impactful and powerful. And honestly, I think just for somebody her age to do what she's been doing and just really working on herself and not feeding the flesh, but feeding the spirit, I was like, girl, yes. Like, this generation needs to hear that testimony.
Yeah, I agree.
I like that you said that. Feeding the spirit, not the flesh.
Yeah.
It's because God's got me.
Stay tuned for her next year.
We're making it a thing because Melissa was making fun of me. She always likes to bag on me, so I just let her. I'm just like a punching bag. You
need to stop.
She's a
literal punching bag.
You're the physical one.
Yesterday, what's your name? What's your name? Shekinah. She told me because I posted something on Insta and I was like, should I take the night off? Should I edit videos? Or should I prepare for tomorrow? Or should I take the night off? And Shekinah was one of two, by the way. The other one was Yessie. And she was like, prepare for tomorrow. And so I was like, man, you're disrespectful. And so, she gave me the whole spiel. She's like, as your friend, take the night off. As your business partner, prepare for tomorrow. And I was like, this is exactly why I like to bully you. This right here.
Wow.
I felt that. I was just like, oh, okay.
That's why I just ignored it.
Yeah, that's why she's tough.
Denise is like, I'm not even going to interact.
Yeah. Just kept swiping.
Okay, anyway. With that being said, what I would like to draw out from Ashley's interview is the settling versus committing. So Ashley in her interview talked about how she was afraid to leave that relationship because she thought that was the best it was going to get. So can you ladies define the difference between settling and committing? Yessie, I feel like you have a great answer for this.
I would say, honestly, settling is staying with somebody that meets below your standards. And you want to build and commit to somebody that you can see a future with. And someone you settle with is somebody that obviously doesn't fit your dreams, but you're just going to say, okay.
Oh, that's really good. That's actually really plain and simple.
I heard this earlier. You forfeit your dreams.
Did you?
Yeah, I heard it.
Where did you hear it?
Over there.
Thank you, Yessie.
settle,
That's really good insight, Denise and Yessie, because I feel like in today's day and age, those are both extremes, right? Well, I don't think committing is actually an extreme. That's a good place to stay at, right? Committing to somebody that can help you achieve the dreams and goals. And that's what we're talking about constantly and all the time, about finding somebody that complements God's will for your life.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you ladies would like to add?
I think too, when I think of settling, it's somebody that, like, I could be a man or a woman, but I'm like you say, Shekinah, I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, is you're kind of giving up, right? Like, there's this defeat of, you know what, I know I can do better. I know I deserve better, but you know what? I've invested so much time and I really love this person. So I'm just going to stay here.
That's really
so
good.
I feel like there's a sense of defeat when you are settling, and versus when you're committing, then it's not it's like an actively working towards something.
Yeah.
And I think people can settle even, like, I think, because I know I can do better mindset. That's not what everyone has. It could even just be a reflection of, this is the best I can do.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at the person you're with, and that's like a mindset of, this is the best I can do, it goes back to that defeated mindset, and that poor person who you're with, you know. But if you start to look at that person, you're like, no, this is legitimately the best I can do, but like in a highlighted, godly manner. I think the attitude, the tone really shifts that perspective. And it just, what we talked about in G Mama's, when we followed up on G Mama's interview, is you have to know who you are. You have to know what your goals are, what your value are. And if you don't know exactly what those things are, at least start with what you know you don't want for your life.
That's good.
Yeah, that's really good.
You know, and just start building and growing from that point. And if this person just doesn't match that vision, that heart, like you said, Yessie, of and helping you move forward and build and grow. But yeah, just absolutely just it's about someone that you can build and grow with.
No, it's really good. So you could say, I like how marrying both of you guys together, like your responses, it's like one of them is defeating and the other one's inspiring, right? One of them will see you have like a nice bright future, while the other one will have you like, well, this is where we're at.
Right.
So one of my favorite things about her interview, which I think it's the most profound thing, was the way that she left everything to follow Jesus. Again, she was so young. She was 19, right? So she literally had nowhere to go. And so Denise, since you were a part of her journey, I would love to hear your perspective on that when she moved into your house for that. What was it, for like a month or two?
Yeah, it wasn't a long time. I know, like you said earlier, she went to her cousin's house and she was there for like a month. And yeah, she came over to our house, and I mean, she was so just respectful. Like, you wouldn't even know she was there, to be honest. Like, she was very just to herself. I mean, she was like the best, I don't say roommate because I was married, but yeah, she was great. I mean, there was nothing to it, and so it was just really cool to have her, just because we knew that somebody that was someone that we could trust. Yeah. And that was big, because at that time, I believe we had both Amalia and Emma, if I'm not mistaken. So that's obviously somebody that we trusted to be in our home, to just be around our things. And like I said, she was great. She was respectful. She was always to herself. And it was just awesome to be able to help her during that transition. And honestly, just to even hear the interview and hear her say that it was an honor for me was just like, really, like, it was just, we were just helping it. It wasn't a big thing, but it's cool to be able to be a part of her story.
Yeah, I agree with you. So one of the things that leaving it all to follow Jesus, right? And what I think was crazy about her story, I'm going to go off the script just a little bit, is, the fact that she had left the Lord, or maybe not the Lord, but she had left the church, and she comes back, and all of a sudden she's presented with the opportunity to leave again, right? And so what's crazy to me is the way that the enemy like plays his hand in that way, right? Where he makes you question, like, okay, maybe this wasn't God, maybe I wasn't supposed to come here or whatever. And so and then I read about the story of Ruth, which I think the four of us have talked about before. Yeah. And so if, can one of you guys give like a quick lowdown of what the story of Ruth is? You're looking at, I keep looking at those beautiful blue eyes. So go ahead.
They're hiding behind my bangs. I'm trying to hide them today. Yeah, the story of Ruth. We have talked about it. I don't remember what episode it was, but Ruth, ultimately, she was not Jewish. However, she was married into a Jewish family. Her husband passed away. She was left under the, I want to say care, but she stayed with her mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law was moving back home, and they meet Boaz. Ruth ultimately showed up in Boaz's life, and she served him, and she presented herself to him in a godly way. And she didn't pursue him. She just made herself available to him. And she pursued God, was her, because of her mother-in-law. Where you go, I'll go. What you say, like, what's the scripture? Your God would be my God, and your people would be my people. Thank you. And so because of that, she submitted to God. And there wasn't any hope, I want to say hope. There wasn't a pursuit of a man in that. She just felt God was calling her to pursue her husband's people. Yeah. And so she followed God's lead. And it was through following God's lead that he brought about the impossible, which was a redeemer, a husband. Yeah.
So essentially, right, because I love the way that you broke it down, but to bring in just a little bit more meat to that. So it was Ruth and her other sister-in-law, and it was the mother. And so then both of the sons died. So that means her and her sister-in-law were both widows, and also her father-in-law died. So the three of them were widows. And so then the mother-in-law was like, okay, like, you guys can go back to where you came from. Like, you don't worry about me. You don't have to take care of me. And so the other one, I think her name was Orpah, she was like, no, like, we'll both go with you, blah, blah, blah. And then Ruth, the mother-in-law's name was Naomi. So Naomi was like, no, like, there's nothing that you guys have in me that will benefit you. And so then Orpah was like, yeah, you're right. Okay, bye. Not in those words, right? But she ended up going back to her people. And Ruth was like, do not ask me to leave you again. I'm gonna go with you. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. And so then they moved back to Naomi's life. And so then Ruth started serving her mother-in-law. That was her number one thing, just serving. And so then her mother-in-law realized what the Lord was doing and all that good stuff. And so she gave here comes that mentorship, right? Which I remember you a long time ago, you got really good revelation about that. That Ruth submitted to the mentorship of Naomi, and Naomi, through her counsel, was able to introduce Ruth to Boaz, not directly, but as a byproduct. And then all of a sudden, Boaz saw her work ethic. He saw the way that she served her mother-in-law without having a portion in her. Like that is the biggest thing. She just did it because that was what was in her nature, to not leave her mother-in-law. And so that's, when I think of that, I think about Ashley, because Ashley, there was really, as far as she knew, I don't think she ever knew that she would be in the position that she's in now. She just knew that she needed to be at greater works, and she knew that she needed to follow God. And so it's not, greater works, like it's an amazing church, but it wasn't that. It was the obedience to the Lord, right? Yeah. And so what do you ladies get from that? The story of Ruth, whether it's directly related to Ashley or just in general, like, I'm sure you ladies have studied that story. So I'll start with you, Yessie.
I mentioned this last week, but off the podcast, but something about Ruth is her reputation, right? As a woman, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what got Boaz. I feel like if you're going to correlate that with Ashley, I feel like her reputation of, you know what, this is my past, but I'm going to go look forward to God. God is like, okay, then I'm going to provide for you. And as mind-blowing as it was listening to that podcast and hearing how she said, I had everything in my car and I just told my family, sorry, I'm going to go do me. I want to do this. I want to serve the Lord, and I'm not going to go with you guys. And she had nowhere to go. Yeah. But God provided. Mm-hmm. God opened up doors. She went with her cousin. She went with the Duskos. Then, like, there was no homeless gap. Yeah. You get me? Yeah. And why? Because she did it God's way. Yeah. And God was her Boaz at that moment. Like, I'm going to provide for you.
That's so good. Going back to your that God is your husband. Going back to that. That is so good, Yessie. You just came back with some hot fire.
Yeah. She did. She did.
It's and just like what you said, like, she just did. The thing about Ashley is when you get to know her, she just does it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like that's why it makes, from our perspective, it seems so effortless, Mm-hmm. It really does, because she just does it. She's just like, and you ask her, why does, and she just does it graciously. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, I don't know, I just felt led to do this. And it's just, you're like, okay, why the rest of us are over here battling and warring and yelling and, but God, you got Ashley who shows up and she's like, I just did it.
I was praying to God.
Yeah, and then I just felt he said, do this, so I did it. Yeah. And I'm like, that you're just an amazing testimony. You're just a walking example of how we should all be in that area of just trusting God. Like, I was just in prayer and God said did it, so I just did it. And it's like, why is it when for me, sometimes I hear God and I'm just like, I'm gonna test that one. But she's honestly, there's been times where God will just speak to me, and I have to just surrender, and the example of Ashley comes to mind, and like just that calm spirit of, okay, I'm just gonna do what God told me to do it. Yeah. And it's not easy, it's definitely outside of my nature, but I have an example, and I'm glad that I have that example.
Yeah, thank God for her. I remember there was one time that Shekinah and I were talking, we're talking with her. And then, because Ashley's prayers just come to pass, like, every time. And it's like this simple as in like faith, simple, right? Like, for example, the back house that we moved into, she and I, last year, she had been praying specifically. She's like, I want this amount of rent, I want this, and I want that. It literally fell in our lap. I was like, Ashley, like, you literally prayed this in. So, I agree with what Shekinah says. Like, Ashley is just, if it's something in her heart, she just believes God, and that's it. no strings attached, but any of that.
I just want to add something to that. One of the things that really stood out to me from the Ruth and Boaz story, and I really see the correlation even with Ashley, is Boaz in this story, he didn't wine and dine her. Boaz was a very shrewd businessman.
So good.
And so when he was ready to take her as his wife, he went into I think it was the courts.
Yeah.
And he went and she was a business deal. And I know that doesn't sound romantic, but I think that it's important for women to see how the context of that was, right? Yeah. So Boaz was very honest, was very integral, went and did a business deal. I think it was like, I forgot who had the first rights. I don't remember who exactly it was, but basically they said no. But Boaz knew how to get what he wanted, but through a business transaction. And in that business transaction and negotiating, he got her. As Ashley was leaning on God as her husband, he negotiated for her all these open places, right? With the cousin, with us, with you. So things have come to pass for her because she's a Boaz. The Boaz who is God, her maker, her husband, has been doing these amazing business transactions on her behalf.
That's amazing.
And sometimes we see our Savior as this guy that's going to come and sweep you off your feet. But if you let the man do what he needs to do and do it in his order, like, it works amazing.
Yeah. I can't wait for her to hear this. I feel like it's going to bring a lot of healing, but I agree. And especially seeing where she's at now, where the Lord is making her into a shrewd businesswoman herself.
Yes.
I think
that's it. That's her covering.
Yeah. That's... This is so profound.
So good.
Yeah. Okay. Right? She should have been sitting in here. Okay, so before we move on to the third point, anything else? I feel like we did good, but
that's it.
Okay. Third but not least, G-Mama and I talked about this on hers as well, but seeing God as our exceedingly great reward. And so this came from that phrasing came from the story of Abraham, right? Abraham in the Bible, in the story of Genesis, he and his wife were believing for a son. And before he got that son, God brought him out into an open space and revealed himself to Abraham in a very powerful way. And God pretty much told him, you know, like, I know that this is a desire of your heart, but in essence, I want you to know that I am your exceedingly great reward. And so, you know, I think we learn this in very different seasons. And I think the more that we get into the Lord, the more, not that we have to relearn the lesson, I think that we learn to pay a little bit more towards that cost. Does that make sense? And so I think all of us here have great stories with learning that. So I'm just going to go around the table and I'm going to start with, have I started with you yet? Not yet. Well, we're going to do it again.
Okay.
Go for it.
Oh, in so many ways. Honestly, even the little minor details. Honestly, sometimes I just go to the store and I'm like, God, I really want this for so and so, and I find it. Yeah. Right? Like that day I needed something for the back house and then I found some things, you know? So I feel like God comes through in those areas because I just fully trust that he's going to come through. And then there's other moments that I can have one of the most heartbreaking things happen and I'm just going through my feelings and I go to sleep and I'm like, God, please just come through. I don't know, like bring insight. And he gives me a dream. And this happened actually recently. He gives me a dream and all my answers were complete. And I had a convo with him in the dream. And so when I wake up, I have no more anger. I have no more sadness. I am filled with joy.
That's amazing.
And I'm like, okay, thank you so much, God. Like, honestly, it's like, yes, you can have counselors, you can have everything, but just having that moment with God and having that revelation. And honestly, I know it sounds weird. Like sometimes, oh, God speaks to you in dreams. Like, yeah, I get very in tune with my dreams and I feel like I'm a dreamer. And so when I try to put those pieces together, I'm like, wow, I had that dream. You get me? So just knowing that's my reward right there. Just having those moments with God. And even in the silence, like I see him come through and I might not see him come through in that minute or in that season, but I'll see things come out of it, if that makes sense. Absolutely. And I'm like, that was God.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful, Yasin. And yeah, your dreams are fire.
Yeah. Thank you.
Super fire.
Yeah, that's all God, girl.
Yeah. Shekinah.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Well, just so many things flooded through my head. It was the little things, like the day-to-day things, but honestly, God is my great reward. I mean, I feel confident enough to say that I would genuinely give it all up for him, and I have. And so because I recognize that, because I know that my reward is in him. And I think that the Lord, I'm trying to like organize my thoughts here because so many things are flooding through of how good God is. And really the reward for me is just being in relationship with him and knowing that his grace is sufficient, knowing that he has a plan for not just us as an individual, but us as a human race. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so something that the Lord even humbled me on is like, sometimes the Lord would call me to do certain things, a little prompting my spirit, hey, go say hi to this person, something simple like that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why? I don't want to. That's embarrassing. I don't know this, but whatever the excuse may be, right? But sometimes I just do it. And then I would be like, I don't even see the fruit of that. I don't understand why you did that. And he goes, but I do. And you don't understand what you just set in motion. So there's things that I still to this day have no idea why God asked me to do it. I just trust that he asked me to do it. But that's enough. And like, it humbled me enough to go, you know what? Even if I never see the fruit from it, even if I never understand the why, somewhere, some way, somehow, someone got affected by it. And I just can trust that God, if anything, and even if there wasn't any purpose other than to test me, even still, I trust God in that. He's building me. He's making me grow in areas and that he's leading me to a bigger thing. But I had to be willing to do it back here. So all the way around, it's just humbled me enough to go, if God tells me to do it, like Ashley, I'm just going to do it. It's not always easy, but when I remember that God is my reward, and he loves me, and he's not going to give me a task just to make a fool out of me. He's not going to do anything to hurt me. It's all because he wants to build me up, and he wants to build us up as a body. And when I can remember that, that's enough to just do it.
Yeah. That's what I get, Shekinah. It's really good. Denise?
I love what you said, Shekinah. It just reminds me of something that Melissa told me once that forever changed my life. Some people plant, some people water. God comes and brings the increase. Right? Did I butcher that? And so you're right. I see that. That's really changed like how I see life and things. And going back to the God is my exceedingly great reward. All that I am, all that I do as a wife, mother, friend, human being on this planet Earth is I do everything unto the Lord. Period. Like I'm always, that's my catchphrase, like be about God business and he'll be about you. And so whatever I'm doing, I do it because I really truly believe, he's saved me from so much. And, you can't convince me otherwise. You can't convince me that God's not real. Even in the hardest times, even with deaths in my family, like you can't convince me that God's still not good. That God's not good. He is. And so because I treasure him, I love him, I honor him, like everything that I am is because of him. And so everything that I do is for him. So just having that type of perspective and mindset really just allows me to get through the toughest times, to get through the good times, to get just through life. Period. So
that's really good. I saw an interview recently with this girl. Her story is pretty profound, to be quite honest. So, one of the things that she was talking about, the interviewer even had a really tough time with hearing her answer. But she was, in essence, she was stating about how she went through death, and it was like out of nowhere, her father died, and he was just getting on fire for the Lord, and he just dropped dead. Like she had just walked away from him, and he went to go explore a little different area, and she went to go look for him, and he was just, they found him dead. And she had just showed, it was in Mozambique, and so she was there to start a new missionary trip. Like it was a whole thing. And so then he was like, how did you heal from that? And she was like, I just healed from it. Like, of course she pursued the Lord and everything. And he was like, how did you wrestle with God? She's like, well, I realized that God doesn't owe me anything. He doesn't owe me anything. And so that to me was really profound. And I think for me, I've definitely have had to learn that God is my exceedingly great reward quite often, as I've opened up before about, as I've opened up a little bit about the disability, and I've opened up even like with this whole husband thing, and there's obviously some other things in my heart that I've been crying out to the Lord for a long time, whether it be people's salvations or whatever the case. We all have those things that we just cry out to God for. And I realize that that the Lord always strips away the other reward. Right? So like, if I do this, what am I going to get? If I do that, what am I going to get? And I think often we do things like, okay, like if I do 1 + 1, then I'm going to get 2. But at the end of the day, like, as you all said, where it's like, well, if I do one, then I get to see God more. If I do this, then I get to see God more. And obviously that's putting to death the old man, right? Where it's like, okay, but putting to death the old man and realizing that whether we see things on this side of heaven or not, that at the end of the day, like, you still got to experience God's presence on this earth, right? And the promise to the Christian is that this is as close to hell as we're ever going to get. And so the fact that we get to walk with God, that we get to be with him, that we get to have our own Eden, I think that's the part that becomes the great and exceedingly great reward, right? We know with Abraham, he didn't know, he received the promise of his son, but his son wasn't perfect. Like, I was just talking to my friend Anna today, and we were talking about, crying out to God for that face-to-face encounter. And I was like, Anna, like back in, I think it was like, I don't know, 2021, I had not face-to-face in that physical aspect, but I literally felt like I was eating the words from the Lord, like that we were just talking mouth to mouth. And it was such a beautiful season, and it was such a heartbreaking season. But it was beautiful, and I love it, and I love looking back at it. But what's crazy to me about that is that those encounters stopped, right? And I think as Christians and as single people and as married people, we're constantly looking for that encounter, not realizing that there's life after. And so the reason why I feel that God is so not hesitant, but he draws us in closer for those encounters, is because how are you going to steward that encounter, right? It's not just the moment. It's not just the mountaintop. It's stewarding that encounter. And it makes me bring it back to marriage. Many of us want the marriage, not understanding the wedding, not realizing that we have to steward the marriage. We want the relationship. We want the boyfriend. We want the husband, not understanding that we have to steward a life. And so for a lot of us, I think that's the reason why we haven't yet seen a breakthrough, because we haven't understood that God is the exceedingly great reward, that he is our heritage. He is the promise. He is all things and everything. As John says, through him and by him were all things made for him. And so it's like how, and even the Lord just recently went through like this little heartache. And in the past, like I have run away from the Lord, and I've gotten really angry at God when I've been extremely disappointed. And even now, I feel like, disappointment's coming from every side. But I looked at the Lord and I was like, imagine me getting moved in my relationship with you because of the frailty of man, because of the frailty of bodies, because of frailty of mind, because of the frailty of creation. That's so crazy to me. And so if there's anything that we leave you with today, don't let anything of this world dictate your relationship with Christ, the great reward. How dare, let's not let the enemy overplay his hand, that he causes you to leave the one person that's remained constant and faithful throughout your entire life, even when you didn't know him. We saw that in the story of G Mama, where even when she didn't know him, God knew her and was taking care of her. Even in the story of Ashley, when she left him, God was still with her. And of course, we're not saying rebellion. It's really ignorance, not knowing what's out there, not knowing what God can do for you. But God is there. As the word says, he reigns on the just and the unjust. So, pursue the Lord with everything. That is the one thing that's never going to disappoint you. I'm not saying that you're not going to face trials, but they'll have purpose, and every pain will have a purpose in it. So make sure that you stick to the Lord. Make sure that you find good friends, because we didn't talk about that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I actually wanted just to say that this heart that you have right here was exactly like you mentioned at that table with Ashley, and how you said, like, don't leave. Like you said you saw it all play out. And then you were like, I know you were joking and not joking. You were like, get yourself some prophetic friends. But I really think that you were meant to be with her in that season, so you can give her that insight and come from the heart that you have, and see the future for her, because you do have to be careful who you surround yourself with, especially in these moments. These moments can be something that you're blinded by love. You're blinded by what you think is love, and you need those outside perspectives, but from friends that actually have the heart, one, of God.
Yeah.
Most importantly, and 2, for you. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's how you'll receive even breakthrough that you didn't know that you needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, if it weren't for friends, then who knows where any of us would be, honestly. Yeah. Godly friends. So with that being said, we're here to be your friends. We're here for you. Connect with us on Instagram, indivine.dating. And we just appreciate you guys. We thank you so much for your continual support. And we hope to see you at the next event. See you later.